Go Guard Whitey, what is up my fam, and we are back and we are here at Streetball AllStars, and today we're going to take a look at the Twin Towers strategy. Let's get into it. Alright, so firstly let's talk about what the Twin Towers strategy is, and to put it simply, it's where two defensive bigs team up with either a shooting guard that has a dive or a point guard that and another big that actually can score. So what does that mean? That means that the Twin Towers strategy revolves around Alto. He is the best big that can actually score while having the ability to also defend perimeter. That's why he's overpowered. But yeah, so this strategy revolves around Alto. So the first character that we're gonna have with Twin Tower strategy is Alto, and the second more important character as well that we should have for Twin Towers to work is Ranger. If he is the best one that you can actually team up with Alto, and that is the best Twin Tower combo that there is. It's Alto and Ranger. But again, this strategy revolves around Alto. He is the more important character because he has lightning dunk and a janky dunking animation. So that means Alto can score really well. So that means that Alto needs to be there 100% of the time, and the Ranger, although he doesn't need to be there 100% of the time, is the best combo that you can get with Ranger, with Alto. But let's say Ranger isn't available, so who else can you use for the Twin Towers strategy? Well, simply put, you can also use either Elise or of course Nikolai. What matters here, as I've said before, is that Alto is there because he can actually score the ball. Now, let's say you don't actually team up with a point guard and you team up with a shooting guard with a dive. In that case, you can actually do, let's say, Nikolai and Ranger, or Elise and Alto, or Elise and Nikolai, or Elise and Ranger. It is possible, especially with a shooter, but again, it is best to have an Alto because they are the main scorer for this strategy. You need a big that can do defense while also being able to score. So again, Twin Tower will revolve around Alto because he can defend and he can score while having another defender on the team. Now, let's talk about why this strategy works. And simply put, this shuts down most shooters. Twin Towers just is so good at defending all shooters, and honestly, the ones that can give you troubles are the ones that have good faking ability. Characters such as Marcus, Taylor, Fire King, they may give you some trouble if you keep jumping on their fakes, but as long as you can actually track them, you should have an easier time. So yeah, that's the main reason why this strategy works. It's because you can shut down shooters really well, and since Alto has a good amount of power, you can also block dunks pretty good as well. So that's why this strategy is actually very, very effective, especially right now in the dunking meta. Even though you're not gonna block every dunk with how overpowered power forwards are right now, at the very least, if they do happen to use a shooting point guard, or if they do use a shooting guard on the side, you'd still be able to shut them down with this strategy. With that being said, let's go ahead and look at what we want to give our characters. So firstly, for Alto, we're gonna want to give him just pure power, just pure as power as we can give him, because he's gonna be the one that's dunking. He's gonna be the one that's focused on blocking those dunks, so he's gonna need the most amount of power so he can score properly and also defend dunks properly. So for Alto, I recommend just pure power. Give him as much power as you can and nothing else. Don't focus on anything else, just give him pure power, because trust me, even with just pure power, he's still going to be a decent perimeter defender with that diving block or with that normal block animation of his. Just give Alto pure power. And for Ranger, this is for Ranger specifically, if you do happen to be able to use Ranger, then I'd say you need to give him max block. My discovery of max block Ranger, it's just way too good to pass up. It makes it very, very easy to actually defend players like David, players like Sher, those characters that are actually not that good at faking the ball. It makes you very, very deadly against them, and most of the time you're going to see yourself winning against them as long as you're actually jumping properly. So with Ranger, if you actually manage to get him, I'd say giving him max block is the best way to go. And of course, like I said, you can use different characters as well. If you have an Elise and you manage to actually pair her with Alto, then I'd say either give her some power or just give her pure speed. Either give her a ton of speed and just a little bit of power, or just pure speed. Because of that dash and her movement in general, or her nerf, oh man, it was so good. I'm so happy that they actually nerfed her. It was actually effective. It was a really good nerf. But that doesn't mean that she's weak now. Giving her a lot of speed will still make her a deadly perimeter defender. So if you do manage to pair her up with Alto, I suggest that you give her pure speed or a lot of speed and a little bit of power. But in my opinion, pure speed is the way to go. And lastly, of course, if you manage to get a Nikolai, the best for this, as I've always said, is always going to be pure speed. That's always the way to go in my opinion. Give Nikolai pure speed. If you don't want that, half speed, half power still works. Hybrid Nikolai is still actually pretty decent at blocking dunks, but pure speed Nikolai, that in my opinion is the most effective, especially against perimeter defending. If you manage to pair him up with Alto, I'd say give him pure speed or speed and power hybrid. But yeah, those are what you're going to want to give your teammates when you actually use this strategy. Now, let's talk about how we can use this strategy effectively. So, what are you going to want to do with this strategy? Well, in all honesty, all you're going to want to do is defend, and once you get the ball, just spam lightning dunk. Again, if you manage to team up with a shooting guard with a dive, then they can be the scorer as well. It works as well, but Alto's lightning dunk is just so overpowered. It is so effective that, in my opinion, just using spam dunk with Alto's lightning dunk is already so effective that you might as well just spam it. You might as well make it your entire offense because it works so well. But yeah, you're just gonna want to spam dunk, lightning dunk, and defend when the ball is on your enemies. So that's basically it. And to top it all off, now that we have affixes, I'd say the best affix for you to get, first of all, for talents, is Contest Expert. It's the 7% at level 3. It's the 7% reduction of their accuracy if you manage to actually make contact with the dunk. Make sure to get Contest Expert. It's the most important talent right now with just how broken dunking still is. And with the affix itself, it's Tough Guy. You're going to want to get Tough Guy. You're going to want to make all those dunkers miss, because just how much they actually dunk on you, even though you have max power, they will still dunk on you most of the time. So you're going to want to make them miss as much as possible. But also, if you don't have enough power, they're always gonna dunk on you, and you're not even gonna be able to block a single shot. So Tough Guy is very important as well, and really works well with this strategy, especially if both of you have Tough Guy. Yeah, that is the affixes that you're gonna want, and that is how the strategy works. Now, let's get into a match and let's talk about this strategy some more. Alright, firstly, let's talk about matchups. Who are you gonna want to get and who are you gonna want to avoid? And in all honesty, this is actually pretty good for Twin Towers. The matchups that you're gonna want to get, as I've said before, are characters that are not good at faking. You know, if you get David, Sher, Hoy, these characters, you're gonna want to get them. They're gonna be the easiest for Ranger to handle. They're gonna be easy for Nikolai to actually lock down. Elise can chase them pretty properly, and Alto can still help with his diving block or normal block. Those characters that are not good at faking, you're gonna want to get them. Shooters that are not good at faking, they're the best for you to get. And for characters that you're not gonna want to get, as I've said, those characters that are good at faking, you know, players like Marcus, Fire King, and Taylor, they might give you trouble, they might. Still, your matchup against them is still pretty good, as long as you know what you're doing. But if there are ones that you're going to want to avoid, it's probably them, but again, you can still do really well against them if you know what you're doing. Twin Towers has some pretty good matchups. Next up, the difficulty of this strategy, and on Alto's part, it might be a bit of a challenge to actually help out on defense if they're not used to actually doing it. They might keep jumping instead of defending the dunkers. But on his offensive part, it's not a lot of training. All you have to do is actually get used to dunking at proper spots so that you don't get blocked as often. But activating it itself, it's not really that hard. So on defensive part, Alto might struggle on getting used to it, but on offensively, it's not a struggle at all. It's pretty easy to actually get it. As for the defensive power forwards, defense-wise, I'd say it should still be pretty easy. Unless they actually are not used to actually using defensive characters, then they might struggle a little bit. But, you know, it's not as big of a load as Alto himself with trying to block down and supporting on defense as well. But yeah, it shouldn't be too difficult for the defensive power forwards. And for the point guards or shooting guards, they just have to do their job, and it's not really that hard either. And finally, with its placement on meta, I'd say it's actually pretty meta. Not a lot of people actually do it, but its effectiveness against meta, I'd say, is very good. It's actually really good. Again, especially against David, or even against dunkers. If you know what you're doing, you're gonna do really well as well. It's gonna be very effective. So yeah, this strategy, Twin Towers, I'd say one of the best strategy out there right now, and it's very much effective. So give it a try if you can, if it's possible, and not only is it fun to use, but it's extremely effective. So anyways guys, that's it for this video. I hope that it's been helpful. I hope you've been entertained somehow, and I'll catch you on the next one.